Oscar Sudi, the Kapseret legislator, released a statement that is still ringing in the ears of many Kenyans. I am sure most Kenyans have not recovered from that statement. Even after the deputy president, a few hours later, came out with another statement, that really confused, where he said he's very proud and honored to be deputy to President Uhuru Kenyatta. In other words, what he was doing is completely contradicting, the very strong, forceful words of Oscar Sudi, his closest bosom ally, in the Tanga Tanga team. Now, I've said on this channel too many times, never listen to a politician and take his word. Always read between the lines. I've said that too many times. However, let me just illustrate this by taking you a little back in time, to another time when we had a very similar, confusing situation. Now, interestingly, this is the time in our history when Kenyans were happiest. The year was 2003. The dictatorial government of Kanu had fallen in the 2002 election, where Kenyans had overwhelmingly voted for President Kibaki, who was the presidential candidate for the opposition. Now, somebody did a survey at about that time, and Kenyans came out at the top of the happiest, most hopeful citizens of the entire world. I can still hear that very famous political song being sung by Kenyans very loudly, very enthusiastically, while being very happy at Uhuru Park. Yote yawezekana bila Moi, yote yawezekana bila Moi. Excuse my being out of tune, okay? But all the Kenyans will remember that very well. And so, shortly after Kenyans saw President Moi flying by helicopter away from State House and back to his Kabarak farm, and Mwai Kibaki, the people's choice, settling in to get down to work in State House on a wheelchair, but still promising Kenya a brand new Kenya. Shortly after that, Kenyans quickly noticed there was a problem. The problem was over something some Kenyans had never heard of, a memorandum of understanding, signed before the opposition Rainbow Alliance came into power. Now, the Rainbow Alliance was a coalition of parties involving LDP, Labour Democratic Party, which Raila Odinga and his cronies belonged to, and the Democratic Party of Mwai Kibaki. The deal was that the two political entities were supposed to share cabinet dockets right down the middle, half-half. But when Mwai Kibaki was safely inside State House Nairobi, he changed his mind. And the LDP members were very angry, because they didn't get the dockets they deserved. Now, for the purposes of our video today, this is what happened. People were waiting for Raila Odinga to come out and condemn Mwai Kibaki. They were waiting for him to come out and say Mwai Kibaki had betrayed him, and the LDP. Nothing like that happened. Instead, all the talking was being done by Raila Odinga's foot soldiers, people like Professor Anyang' Nyong'o and the late Kajwang', the man of Bado Mapambano. Those are the people making all the noise. Meanwhile, Raila Odinga was making very appropriate statements, saying that the government of the Rainbow Coalition government was solid, and they were solidly behind President Mwai Kibaki. Bottom line, it took a very long time for this issue to come out in the open, and for Raila Odinga to openly state, that they had been betrayed by Mwai Kibaki. This became very clear when, after Mwai Kibaki went and did his own things concerning a new constitution, actually massacred the Guy constitution and quickly took it to a referendum. That referendum was defeated by Raila Odinga and his cronies. flexing their muscles and showing Mwai Kibaki that they still had more muscle power, more political muscle than the president at that time. The president's cronies, the bananas, lost heavily to the oranges, Raila Odinga's cronies, who are saying no to the massacred constitution. And by the way, that is how the Orange Democratic Movement was formed, was birthed. And amongst its founders were, of course, President Uhuru Kenyatta. At that time, it was just Uhuru Kenyatta. And so, my friends, in my view, we are back to that time in history. Because here we have Deputy President William Samoei Ruto saying that he's proud to be deputy to President Uhuru Kenyatta. And then we have his cronies saying the direct opposite, contradicting him. And so, please don't get confused. Please don't be fooled. What cronies of DP William Samoei Ruto are saying is what is in William Samoei Ruto's heart. Just like the time not too long ago, when what Raila was saying was very different from what his cronies were saying. But actually what his cronies were saying was what was in Raila Odinga's heart. The Jubilee Party is solid. Whatever the Jubilee Party set out to do in 2013 is still on course, to bring Kenyans together. Go tell that to the birds. The evidence on the ground, the overwhelming evidence on the ground, clearly contradicts that statement from the Deputy President. Now, there's something I want you to take very careful note of. In politics, timing is very important. Sometimes if you can't figure out why somebody has done something, you can't just figure it out, you think you can't get to it, then the thing you run to is something called timing. You draw timelines. Why is this guy saying this at this time? And then it becomes very clear. Now, it is extremely clear and obvious that Oscar Sudi's hard-hitting statement, saying the president is incompetent, is a reaction to the arrest and charging of CS Treasury, or rather the former CS Treasury, Henry Rotich. And if you doubt that, just review the statements released by the Tanga Tanga team since that arrest. They are all very consistent, culminating in this latest Oscar Sudi outburst. Folks, what is happening here is that there's a lot of drama in the background. And there's a major battle going on in the background, even as people issue statements. And the issuing of the statements and what people are saying is just a clear manifestation of what is going on behind the scenes. Now, fortunately, it is very easy to understand exactly what's going on behind the scenes, which is highly sensitive, and it is in my latest weekly intelligence briefs. Hiyo maneno, folks, it's explosive, and indeed that word is not even strong enough. And to understand it totally, you also need to understand the end game of both teams, both Team Keleweke and Team Tanga Tanga. And by the way, the appointment of the acting CS Treasury was not an accident. The man who was picked was very carefully picked. Take note of the fact that this man cannot be associated either with the Tanga Tanga team or with Team Keleweke. He can't. Politically, he is viewed as being completely neutral. Now, this is very critical. In other words, it was very important that nobody anywhere can be able to say after that appointment that somebody from Team Tanga Tanga was removed and replaced by a Keleweke crony. Hiyo ingeharibu game plan kabisa. Now, to get a very clear picture of exactly where I'm coming from, in my latest Club 1999 video, I give a historical perspective of the relationship between the president and his deputy. I even reveal why they fell out. And the reason will shock you to your bones. It's not what most Kenyans think. Now, my sincere apologies to all of you Yeah, because it is not my wish to leave out information and to leave you hanging. Yeah, but what do I do if the information is so super sensitive? Anyway, let's move on. Now, if you take a bird's eye view of these latest political developments, sometimes to understand something, you've got to take a bird's eye view. Yeah, go up in the air, maybe with a drone, and look down. Then you'll understand exactly what's happening. For instance, if there's a traffic jam on Mombasa Road, if you go up there in a drone, you'll understand that there's an accident 2 kilometers down the road. Yeah, a trailer's blocked the entire road, and that's why there's a jam. And then you'll be able to make the right decision of turning back, and looking for another way to go to Mombasa. Or going back to Nairobi and taking a flight, if you can afford it. Yeah, you will not be able to make that decision when you're on the ground, when you fail to take a bird's eye view. Now, this is the bird's eye view. It is very clear that Oscar Sudi's statement is designed to provoke, is trying to provoke some action from Team Keleweke, supporters of the president. Now, if you're a regular on this channel, you will know, because I've said this before, that this is not the first time that Team Tanga Tanga is trying to bait Team Keleweke, provoking them, daring them to do something. Yeah, actually, Team Tanga Tanga seem to be spoiling for confrontation. I've said that before. Because sample this, you're in the Jubilee party and you're attacking your party leader. How? That never ever happens in politics anywhere. How do you attack your party leader and you're in the same party? If Oscar Sudi was in ODM, even with a handshake, and he came out with such a statement, it would be a bit understandable. Yeah, because ODM is a different party. It is not in government, although there's a handshake. And although they are cooperating, you'd be able to understand. But a member of the same political party? Yeah. And then Kenyans are confused further. Because a few hours later, the deputy president, who is in the same political party, says that Jubilee is solid. How? How can Jubilee be solid when one of its own members attacks the party leader, criticizes the party leader, in fact, asks the party leader to resign, and allow new leadership in Kenya? Does that make sense to you? It doesn't make sense. And so the big question we have to ask is, what is Oscar Sudi after? What kind of reaction is he provoking Team Keleweke, the president's cronies, to make? And more importantly, what is his game plan after they react in the way he wants them to react? If they do, I don't think they will. Let me just give a practical example so that we all understand what I'm saying. You're having drinks at a social place. And so what this guy does, he walks up to your table, takes your glass of whatever drink you're having, and pours it on the floor. What do you think such a person is expecting? He's expecting an attack. And he must have a plan. He must know what he's going to do when you attack. Or rather, when that person whose drink has been poured on the floor responds. In my view, what Oscar Sudi has done with this rant of his is equivalent of going near a police station or outside a police station. Then you start throwing stones inside the police station. What do you expect? Now, assuming that you're sane, you've not lost your mind, obviously, you know precisely what you're going to do when the cops come out of the police station to respond. This reminds me of a time about 4 or 5 years ago when I witnessed something which is just mind-boggling. Somebody did an act of provocation against some policemen who were in patrol. And guess what the reaction of the police was? First of all, they laughed. Before dealing with this man, they laughed. They laughed, and then when they finished their short laugh, they dealt with that man. Let me just leave it at that. And they dealt with him vigorously. Now, that was understandable, because this man was drunk. He was not in his right mind to dare provoke the Kenya police. However, Back to politics. Oscar Sudi has not lost his mind. He knows precisely what he's doing. And so the big question, which I'm afraid I cannot answer because I don't know, but it is disturbing me, the big question is, what is Oscar Sudi up to? What is Team Tanga Tanga up to? Because a sane person, a person who's still normal, not a mad person, does not throw stones into a police station without knowing what they're going to do next. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.